Hey, happy days. Sharon Horne-Ellstrom here. Are you going to beat around the bush, as in this little scene here, which we'll describe in a minute, or are you going to rise to the occasion? Are you going to come out of this whole situation being the king and queen, or king or queen or prince or princess or whatever, the leader of your business and your industry? Sharon Horne-Ellstrom here, also known as Pajama Grandma, in my favorite granny pajamas. Not my favorite, but they're one of the pairs I like the most. To talk about the idiom beat around the bush. Now, beat around the bush actually comes from the 1500s. I had no idea this expression was that old, but I do have a lot of experience, personal and upfront experience, with the expression beating around the bush. Not necessarily people saying, hey, don't beat around the bush, although I know my dad used to say that to us girls when we were little. Don't beat around the bush, tell me what you gotta tell me. Because usually one of us had gotten into some kind of mischief and we were not getting directly to the point in terms of what had happened. Maybe the chickens had gotten out, or the horses had gotten out, or something, and we needed my dad's help, but we didn't, he was busy and we didn't want to necessarily interrupt him, so we would not be super direct with the information. And I learned early on that with my dad, you needed to be direct and straightforward. Now, beat around the bush, of course, means to avoid answering a question, or to approach something very carefully, very carefully, or in a roundabout way, not getting directly to the point. Thus the scene of our little snowman with a beater bar, or a little beating stick, by a couple of very creative bushes and some little animals that hunters would hunt. Back in the 1500s, hunters would hire people called beaters, and they would hire them to go out into the forest or the woods ahead of them and find bushes where little animals were and chase them out into the open so that they would have a better chance of course, bagging their prey, or having a successful hunt. And the beaters had to be careful, because if they went out too early and scared up all the little animals, by the time the hunters got there, there would be nothing for them to hunt. So they would be roundabout and circular, and they would go around the bushes instead of going directly to them, and thus the saying beat around the bush became popular. Now, I don't know about you, but there have been lots of times when people have interacted with me and they've beat around the bush. It's usually when they have to deliver bad news, or something they think that I'm not going to want to hear, right? Or that whenever, but to me, the clearest example of beating around the bush occurs when people are communicating in a way that they don't want to deliver bad news. In corporate America, I knew managers and leaders that would create complicated processes and systems for everybody because one person or two people did something wrong, and instead of giving those people feedback and talking to them and addressing the problem, they would create these elaborate systems for everybody else. So instead of talking to the 2%, they would enact policies and procedures that affected 100% of the people. Not necessarily the best course of action, but it kind of shows you the level of confrontation or conflict that people can handle. Lawyers are awesome at beating around the bush, right? Negotiators are tremendous at beating around the bush. People delivering bad news. I remember the first time I got let go from a job and fired. To me, laying off and firing, it all feels the same. A lot of people have been through this in the last couple of weeks. And did your boss, did the person that was letting you go, did they beat around the bush, or did they just directly say, hey, coronavirus is shutting us down, we're all going home, you're all let go, you're all fired? Or did they say da 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 and put all these flowery beat around the bush things on it, and give people some kind of future expectation or hope, or just let them go? So giving feedback, delivering bad news, telling a story. Some people can tell a story that some people can do Facebook Live videos and talk around and around and around and beat around the bush. But a lot of people, some people tell great stories and have wonderful timing and flair and details, and you love their stories and you're so excited when they get to the end. Other people will tell a story and it's all discombobulated and they'll go round and around and around. You're like, or a joke, right? Some people can tell a joke, some people can't. I have a sister that's got incredible timing and she can deliver jokes and things so well. She could tell a half-an-hour story and you'd be like, oh my God, that was great. And I would tell a half-hour story and people would be snoozing in their chairs. It's just the difference in our delivery and timing. But telling a story or delivering a joke, some people, you just meat axe it and don't get to the point. Other people get to the punchline and you're like, oh, that was amazing. To defer attention, or to redirect attention, or to forward their own agenda, people will beat around the bush. Think politicians, think Congress, think law creation and law, how that happens. That process is huge, filibustering and beating around the bush. Now, my question for you is, How are you using the current situation? How have you been handling the current situation? Are you beating around the bush and not saying, okay, this is what's happened, I don't like it, this is where we are right now, where are we going to go? What are we going to do about it? How are we going to continue to move forward and serve and make sure that our business survives this situation? If you haven't gotten to the point where you're saying, this is what is, and what am I going to do next, then you're beating around the bush. I guess that's my opinion. If you haven't at this point, we've been in this a couple of weeks now, at least in Wisconsin, and if you're not to the point where you've gotten a little bit through the grieving process and are moving forward and saying and asking yourself, what can I do? What else is possible? How can I serve my people? You're not serving your people, and you're definitely not serving yourself and those you love and care about, because you're procrastinating and waiting for somebody to give you the answers. And leaders don't do that. Leaders and people in this country and in this world are looking for us, all of us that own businesses, to stand up and say, boy, this was an interesting mess. This is what we're going to do about it. And they're looking to you to lead and do that. And I know that you can. That's it with beat around the bush. I say, let's stop beating around the bush and let's all rise to be the leaders of our industry and show the way and model for everybody, no matter how bad their situation. This is the way to get out of it. These are the steps to get out of it. This is what you can do next. And that will all help to make the world a better place. That's it. I will see you tomorrow with another interesting idiom. Where does it come from? What does it mean? And how might you use it right now to not only supersize your business, but if you're in the other boat, to save and continue and make sure that you've got a business to grow and supersize after we get through all this. Take care.